Hello and good afternoon, everyone out there. I see a lot of familiar names, so thank you for joining me today. Welcome to everyone to this webinar. So today we're going to talk about how to streamline your service delivery with the use of change management in Topdesk. What we want to try to do is that hopefully today you will have enough tips for you to take on board and start utilizing Topdesk to the best of its potential. So for those out there that don't know me, my name is Andreina, and I'm a senior consultant helping companies improve processes and streamline their service delivery by implementing Topdesk. So just before we start, just a quick reminder, there is a section, a panel on the right-hand side where you can actually ask questions at any point during the webinar. And we will aim to answer those as we go along, or best case scenario at the end if time allows. So even if we don't get time to answer them right now, we will send out an email with the responses. There is an orange arrow on the top at the right-hand side, which you can actually compress, so you get rid of the panel and you can actually see the full screen in case you need to. So today we'll be covering four main topics. The first one is the service journey. So it all starts from the requester, from your customer, from the self-service portal side of things. Then we will actually go in depth into one of the change management examples we all know and love, which is the new starter process. That process has several activities and authorization tasks that need to be carried out, and we'll just show you how that works, not only in the front end, but how that actually translates into Topdesk. So how does this work? How will operators receive their tasks on their back end at the right time? And then we'll give you a few takeaways for you guys to implement this in your own environments. So first of all, I just wanted to cover the why. So why are we talking about this in the first place? Why do we want to do this and implement this in our organizations? The answer is that it's because there are a lot of benefits associated with implementing something like this. Not only because you align your customers' expectations by presenting all the different services you provide with the different terms and conditions, who's going to do what and when, but also because you can actually embed those predefined processes, so they're no longer going to be in someone's cupboard, they're going to be there, embedded, just in all the templates that we create, not only in change management, but in knowledge articles as well. And they basically will define who does what and when, which will ultimately increase efficiency and introduce consistency in the delivery of the services. So how does this translate in Topdesk? Basically, the theory around this is all to do with service journey. So we have a service, and a service is comprised of not only information about the service, but also a flow. So a flow is sectioned into three different things. The first one is the form. So the form is just all the different questions that you ask your customer at the very beginning of the process. So some of them being mandatory, some of them not, but it's just to try to collect from the very beginning all the relevant information for the people within that particular process to know exactly what to do at the right time. So there might be that you have multiple authorization steps and tasks, so activities to do. Also, there's two bits to the flow which are quite important, and one of them is the knowledge. So we are trying to shift left. We're trying to empower our end users to use that knowledge to their advantage to actually make informed decisions. And then the last one is assets. So in the example of a new starter, if Joe is starting tomorrow. They need a laptop, they need a mobile phone, probably they need a desk and a chair. So all these assets could potentially be embedded in your flow. So actually, how does this look in Topdesk? So this is just a little screenshot we took from one of the examples, the many examples of a self-service portal. The first thing we want to try to do is to use our service catalog in the self-service portal. And normally we try to do this so people are familiar with the services that we provide as a business. We try to group them by tiles, so by activities with different categorization, like for example, my workspace, meeting and events, work agreements, programs and permissions. So those are just many of the examples that we will basically cover within our service delivery. Then we're going to focus today on one particular service, and that is to do with a human resources service. So in that case, we will publish forms with the relevant questions, so we capture all the information from the very beginning. And then also introduce, as I said before, or link those knowledge items to Shift Left. And we'll see how. So I know some of you that have been using Topdesk for a while are pretty familiar with this picture. I know it looks daunting. It looks like there's a lot of tasks to be done, but the good thing about it is that it is set in a particular way. So there's activities that need to happen first, like for example, in this case, set up the Active Directory account, create access paths, but those are things that are embedded in the template that's linked to the form that's presented to the self-service portal user. So the user doesn't have to worry about all these different things. They'll just be streamlined within a template in the back end. So even though all these things happen as part of your change process, the user will never know it was this much effort. So now let's see how this actually plays out in Topdesk. Let's start with the self-service portal. So now today I'm John Dean, I'm a manager here at Topdesk, and I will process a request for a new starter. So as you see, we have our tiles set up. We have a section of contract and benefits, and within that section, not only do I have the service new starter, but I also have an employee leaving and certain knowledge articles, not only about these two services, but also anything to do with training, anything to do with company fitness, working outside office hours, so any sort of article that will empower, in this case, the manager to make the right decisions. So if we actually click into the service, so not only do we have a really nice picture here of the new starter, but also we have the processes, procedures, and policies that have to do with that particular service. So we might have terms of supply, like we'll attempt to answer your request in the next 5 working days, but we also have knowledge. So as I said before, you want to try to shift left to embed that knowledge within the flow that you're presenting. So in this case, we have a checklist of activities that need to be carried out for a new starter. Not only do you do this, but also you can rate whether the information was useful or not, click away, and proceed with your process. So in this case, we have an item linked to the actual flow. So we're ordering a desk phone for our new starter, and we're also answering some of the questions within that form. The good thing about forms in Topdesk is that you can actually pick and choose different questions and then get different subsequent questions. So obviously, if I'm from London, I might need a locker, but if I'm from Delft, I just need a bike parking spot. So once we do that, we confirm, and that gives us a change number. So as you see, the customer in no way was involved in terms of, is this a request? Is this a fault? They're just submitting from within the service this form and getting a number to track the progress of the request and also ask questions or give feedback at any point during the process of the new starter. So this is basically it from the self-service portal side. So this is the beginning of that process. Now let's see how this actually looks in the back end. So within Topdesk, I think a lot of you guys are familiar with this because you're operators. In this case, I'm logged in as Dawn Meadows. So I'm an IT manager, which means I have a lot of tasks and permissions within my role. But obviously, depending on the permissions you have as an operator, your look and feel of the home screen will be slightly different. But what we want to focus on today is on the module space page, specifically in change management. So if we look at this new request that we've just submitted from the self-service portal, you will see that in the request box, you will have all the information about that particular form that was submitted. Not only that, but you have the template automatically embedded of the new starter. So this is what's actually going to kickstart all the activities once we've approved the request. So if I click Save, at that point, I'm presented with all the different tasks within that change management process. So in here, I have the option to pick and choose if we know who's going to do it, who's going to carry out those activities. And I'm also able to start the activities, in this case today, or implement before a particular time. So obviously before the employee begins. So once I apply the template, all these activities become available as part of your change management process. So we see that some activities are ready to start and some of them are not because they depend on those activities to be finished. One of the good things and tips that people often don't know about is that not only can you see the planning overview of all the activities, but also you can group those activities. So in this case, you're looking at different colors per different operating departments. So for example, in here, we have a couple of tasks assigned to human resources, others to facilities, and others to IT. So one of the first things I normally tell customers is to try to create an activity for those things that you will need to sign off and that you would need to do and that would potentially block the rest of the other activities being carried out. What I mean by this is that, for example, creating an access pass or setting up an Active Directory account are things that need to be done for the employee to actually get access to all the systems and facilities within your company. But for example, things like setting up a workplace, they don't necessarily need to be split down into get the new guy a chair, a table, and a monitor. It could just be part of a bundle, and that bundle could be assigned to either one operator group or one operator. So just try to bundle things if you think that one operator will do them at the same time or within the same period of time. One of the other things that we don't realize sometimes is that activities not only show you what you need to do as an operator, but also show you the change management overview. So if we go to the fourth tab on the top, the change tab, that would give you a read-only view of the request that's been submitted from the self-service portal. So at that point, if I need to do something with this information, I could just go to the change, take the information I need, and then resolve the activity. Another tip for you guys out there is, if we go back to that change, within the template, we've built in 13 activities. And what sometimes people don't realize is that some activities are mandatory, but others could just be optional. And within the new starter process, I would say that I've seen companies that recruit in a role-based type of way. So what I mean by that is that if I'm recruiting someone from finance or from human resources, they don't necessarily need access to certain systems like someone from IT would. So if I'm a new starter in IT, I might have some optional activities that I will need to make part of the process. What I mean by that is that once the template is embedded to your change, those activities could be easily ticked out or not to make them part of that particular change process. So if we go back to the original change we made, and we go back to our planner, not only can we have activities that are optional, so that means that when we progress from request to the actual implementation of the change, you will have the option to opt out or in from some activities, but there's this functionality at the right-hand side of the page, which means that you can actually add activities as part of your live change. So in this case, I've added a preparation stage to this particular ongoing change, and then I can actually create dependencies if I wanted. The other thing that I want to show you guys today is, okay, we've looked at how to embed a change template in a change. We've looked at the activities that are part of a change template, and we've seen how different activities are assigned to different teams within that change process. We've seen how to make activities optional or mandatory, or how to add activity templates on the flow of an existing change. Now what I want to do is I want to go back one step and show you how, when you've done your template, your change template, and attached all the activities to it, how do we embed this template on your form? So for that, we're going to go to the self-service portal designer. So in here, one of the things I really like about this portal designer is that basically what you see is what you get. So in this case, on this particular tile of contract and benefits, we've added a service. And within the service, we've added a description of the service. So we can here put extra information. We can also make it available to everyone or only to a specific either person group or branch. So in this case, if we only allow managers to be requesters of a new starter service, then we can only, let's say at that point, make available the service to the manager. Also, in this case, we can add keywords. So that is from the self-service portal. If I'm searching for this particular template, I could just type in new starter and this service would be part of the options. And also we can add flows. So as I said before, a flow is comprised of three main things, and that is the form here, which has the new starter template embedded in, and then we have orderable items. So in this case, we can actually add items to that particular template, and then knowledge items. So for example, in this case, I can add knowledge to that flow, then save. And then if we quickly switch back to our self-service portal, we can see that in the back end, with only 2 clicks, we've added new knowledge, we've added extra information, and assets that could be allocated to this particular new starter. It's also very good at reminding me that we have a couple of mandatory questions here and there. So that's very good. And then end up back on the change. So now that we've seen really quickly how this works in Topdesk, what I want to do is just kind of summarize what we've looked at today. So first of all, we've seen how publishing your service catalog in your portal will empower end users to get the right information, to readjust their expectations about the service you deliver, and just to be a bit more familiar with what you guys deliver as a business. Sometimes people are just a bit confused. Is it IT? Is it facilities? But if we put it in the service catalog, then they will know exactly what to expect at the right time from the very beginning. The number 2 is remember, a flow is a combination of 3 main things: form, knowledge base items, which will help you shift left, and orderable assets. And finally, using change template within the forms you publish within your services would help you streamline those services so your operators will know exactly when they need to do things, who needs to do them, so they're more effective and they take less time doing what needs to be done. So thank you very much for listening. Now I open the floor to any sort of questions. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at the panel. I'm going to leave this open now for questions. So in case you have anything, just shoot. So thank you guys for listening again.